Hello, dear listeners. The protectors of the pod, the No Coast Defenders, are back once again. To this week, we are going to talk Eternals. We're going to give some gift suggestions as well, and whatever else comes to mind, because that's how we roll here on the No Coast. So, first off, Dan, you are starting Hit Monkey tonight, correct?
Indeed, I am.
All right, so maybe next week it might be a little difficult with 2 episodes of Hawkeye coming, but honestly, I don't mind talking double feature Hawkeye Hitman. It kind of fits for me.
Now, I'm hoping I can get into Hit Monkey. It's actually a character I don't know a lot about, so that part excites me. But then I saw the animation style, and you know how I am with that. I'm an old grumpy guy with that stuff. So I'm hoping that the story and dialogue is enough to keep me in.
I really liked the animation. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just old school, man. Just the same with video games. If it's above SNES graphics, I don't want it. So, and that's how I am with animation. The second it goes away from our like 90s cartoon style, it just loses me. I don't know what it is, but
No,
I'm hoping it's a good story.
The animation style definitely reminded me of Archer, which makes sense because the director is like one of the producers, executives on Archer. So It made sense that the animation style would be reminiscent. So I thought it was good. We'll see what your opinion is and if you can even get into it. But that'll probably come next week or 2 weeks, sometime down the line.
Yeah, I'm starting it tonight, and usually I work through that stuff pretty quick, so I should be done by Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick watch, I thought. So
just in time to start Hawkeye, which I am super pumped about.
Yeah, everyone is super pumped for Hawkeye, I think. Now, before we get into talking Eternals, any news you wanted to hit upon this week?
I want to encourage folks, don't listen to what the early review said. Don't listen to the critics. Go see Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's fantastic. It was so good that Zoe wanted to go right back in and see it again after we walked out. So definitely, I can't rave about it enough. I can't believe how it got trashed by so many people, but every Ghostbusters fan I've talked to love the shit out of it. So maybe it depends on the lens you're watching it with, but seriously, it is a great movie.
Well, since you brought up this Ghostbusters, what did you think of the all-female reboot?
I enjoyed that one, actually. I don't understand it. I never understood the hate it got. I think that it was a bit cheesy, but I think they were trying to roll in the same respect as the originals, with that cheese factor. So I never understood the hate it got. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't fantastic, but it's not like I like turn off my TV if it's on. I thought Chris Hemsworth was the best part of it, honestly. But yeah, I thought it was fun. We had fun. We laughed. It wasn't kind of nothing to, it was a movie that existed that I don't understand why people hate.
Yeah, I ended up watching it even in spite of the bad reviews, and I mean, I love Kristen Wiig, so I was going to see it eventually anyway. But I had a friend who's a big movie buff and loves Ghostbusters, and he's like, "No, all the reviews are wrong. It's great," and I really enjoyed it. I found myself laughing out loud quite a few times during it. I've rewatched it a couple times since, and yeah, the beauty of Hemsworth was anytime he's playing against type, Hemsworth is great. Like, I think everyone kind of thinks of him as early Thor in MCU, but he's very much more later Thor. He's very funny. He's got great comedic timing, which is important because it's not like he's writing the dialogue. So as long as you can deliver the lines with the right timing, and if you can play against type, it's perfect for him. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to eventually see this. I mean, it's got Paul Rudd in it, so of course I was going to watch it.
I was really skeptical when I saw the cast. Everything I read about it, I was super skeptical. Like, Lauren and Zoe had to convince me to see it. I didn't even want to see it. And then we're 15 minutes in and I'm loving the shit out of it. So I'm noticing the critics, and we're going to get into it with the Eternals too. The critics are pretty much their own worst enemy at this point. I mean, they don't want to enjoy a damn thing. And I'm going to be honest, just like the previous Ghostbusters with, all their reviews, half the people I talked to were like, "Oh, it was a crap movie." When I asked, "Did you actually see it?" They said no. And I feel like that's what it is for the source material for a lot of these critics that are out now. And so screw what you see online, just go see the damn movie. It's a good time, or watch it when it comes home. I will say I'm more of a couch watcher, but this was one that I think I appreciated much more on the big screen than I will at home. But I just Go see it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think the narrative with the critics is a big part of Eternals. And so I was listening to Joanna Robinson, who used to write and pod for Vanity Fair, but he's recently gone to the Ringer, as a lot of people are, especially the nerdier type, because she's got a lot of friends over there. And she was talking about Rotten Tomatoes in general.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about Rotten Tomatoes, because she's friends with a lot of reviewers and some that work for Rotten Tomatoes, is the reviewer themselves don't pick certified fresh or not.
Right.
The site actually decides for that. So she's talked to many critic friends who have not trashed a movie, but there were a couple parts they didn't like, and then Rotten Tomatoes wouldn't put the certified fresh on it. So don't trust an aggregator like Rotten Tomatoes, especially if you're not going to actually read the reviews.
Right.
Because movie critics are looking for different things, and they're going to compare Eternals versus Endgame because of the scope of what the film is. And it was going to be a completely different movie. Endgame was the ending. Eternals is supposed to be the beginning. You're going to look for different things. And Eternals threw a lot in the out the window at the wall for this new type of film, and they should be praised for that. But when it doesn't work, a critic, as they probably should, is going to point out it didn't work. And when you're just aggregating and taking specific lines from a review, you're not going to get the nuance. You're not going to get, hey, I thought there were too many characters in this movie, but I loved the performances and all the characters. I just wish we had more. You're not saying that the acting was bad, the characters were bad. You're saying you wish you had more time with those characters, which doesn't necessarily make a movie bad. I think the best way to handle reviews is find a reviewer whose taste match yours that you like and read the actual review, or find a reviewer you hate, read the actual review and watch it to spite them.
And that's usually what I do.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about it, what were your overall thoughts on Eternals?
All right. So the early reviewers, they were wrong about everything. You could tell. I think I need to preface this. There is no woke Marvel. There's no woke MCU. It's what fucking superheroes are and always have been. So this notion that these movies are getting more, and I'm just going to keep saying woke with finger parentheses because it seems to be the words that they're using, not finger parentheses, quotation marks. That's not at all what it is. They're representing these characters as they should be. I'm sorry if that goes against your worldview or if you've never read a comic book, but that's why they exist. Mutants weren't automatically beloved. You know, they had to fight for representation and acceptance. Superheroes existed to fight the very bullshit that a lot of those people are defending still. So I need to start with that because that's a lot of the hate that I saw from the initial reviews. Does a man kiss another man? Yes. That's 5 seconds of an almost 3-hour movie. Get over it.
It was a closed mouth goodbye kiss. Like,
were they successfully raising a child together? They were. Applaud that shit. You saved the children, people. You should applaud that because they were raising a child together. And I cannot tell you how many early reviews I saw focused on that and focused how they're trying to play on the social stereotypes of today. No, they're not. It's just the Eternals hadn't been introduced yet, but that shit was already there. Comic books existed long before this stuff. If they were to go and change that, that's the same as the people pissed off that Samuel L. Jackson played Nick Fury. Why do you got to change things? So do you want him to go and change the stuff that you're uncomfortable with? Or do you want to stick with it? You know, you gotta pick a lane there. So that's where I saw a lot of the early criticisms, which fueled my fire. And you can ask Tim and all the folks in that group chat. Every day I'm like, can't wait to see the Eternals. I'm going to see the Eternals. I want to see it 10 times just to prove them wrong. And then I saw the Eternals and I didn't like it, but not for any of those reasons. And to be honest, I didn't like it because it was a bad movie. I didn't like it because I think it should have been 2 movies. And I think that they tried to do a bit too much with it. And so it just didn't work for me. I was the only one in the theater, by the way, which is pretty awesome. But I got up and I walked around, I think 45 minutes into it, just to stretch my legs and keep from falling asleep. I think I saw an 8 p.m. show, something like that. Like the cinematography is beautiful. The CGI was great. It's just, I'm not one of those folks, and it's one of my criticism for all those movies that just jump around. Those movies lose me rather quickly. I I thought what I was looking at was beautiful. And I don't know if it's because like I know the story of these characters, so I don't need half the stuff I was given or what it is, but I was just thoroughly bored. And I can only be stimulated visually so much before I'm like, all right, it's not enough anymore. I thought that the second act was incredible. It was all heart. It was some of the biggest, I think, just tenderest moments we've had in the MCU thus far. Really getting acquainted with those characters, really getting a chance to know them. And I think that the acting across the board was just exceptional. It was really well done. No, this wasn't your typical MCU movie, and I think that's okay. You know, the formula only works for so long before you got to start doing something different. And I think the vision of Chloe Zhao is just, she's great. So I was all about that, you know, but the end, it felt like I was watching a DC movie, to be honest. It was just so jumbled and like, what the hell is going on here? But then I know that there were some changes within release dates in the MCU and different things going on, and that the end credit scenes were changed a couple of times. And so there were some things that had to be dealt with to make certain things happen. And so I get it. And the movie eventually had to be released, right? I mean, promos for this movie started, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So I get it. And I didn't fault it for that. I think in my review, I gave it 7 out of 10 strictly for effort. You know, it's one of those things where effort goes a long way in my book. And I think that the undertaking she took with this movie to introduce 10 new characters while trying to lay the background for that, when we have Celestials, we have space, we have Earth, you know, I mean, we have all these realms being brought together now. And they're like, hey, make this one movie where you introduce 10 characters. Oh, and then in the end credit scenes, we're going to introduce some more. I mean, it's impossible for anybody to tackle. And so ambition was there. The visuals were there. I would have somehow changed the first 45 minutes to incorporate a lot of that stuff into it, but that's just me. I don't get paid to make films, and there's probably a reason for that. So I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Much of it wasn't enjoyable for me, but I'd say that there was about a half hour of it that was some of my most enjoyable time watching any MCU piece. I think it's the most fair way I can put it.
Well, and I remember your initial reviews, because you saw a couple weeks before I did. One of them was that you're bored by the first half, first 45 minutes. And my brother and I both think you're crazy for that, but that's just the way we watch films, because I was like, how could you be bored? Like, it didn't stop. But the problem is you seem to tune out when it goes to the cuts, whereas like each scene had so much in it. I think almost too much in it. So I didn't think there was a moment that dragged in this movie. I just think there was too much in this movie. So you said the 2-movie thing, and I think you're right. One of the things that could help is if this didn't come after Endgame, and really the first thing that's setting up post Endgame, since everything else is just talking about the blip, then you could have introduced a couple more characters. It would have been an easier undertaking then. It was originally going to be 10 characters, or 12 characters. They cut it to 10, which is insane. So I think,
don't you think that's kind of set to fail from that point on? Like, I mean, because not being done like a TV series where you have a different episode introducing somebody. I mean, it's a block to introduce all these. I feel like it was set up to fail from the beginning with that.
Yeah, the way this should have been done, I don't think it's 2 movies. It should have been a series and a movie, because all that beginning stuff where they're traveling through time, which has been pointed out to me, like they're not really consistent with the time jumps and how long. But that doesn't matter. Comic books aren't consistent with time jumps, and so that is a minor thing that I didn't even look for because I didn't care. But that could have been like the first like 40 minutes of a series where like you introduce them, they're kind of traveling through time, and then you have another, let's say 7 episodes, because I think you don't need an Ajax episode because she'd just be intertwined in all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe you could even cut it too, since Gilgamesh and Thena are kind of attached in this. But then you can introduce the characters throughout the episodes. And one of the great suggestions I heard for this idea was the way Sprite is telling the story of Gilgamesh. And we get the fact that the basis of mythology is the Eternals in this world. Each episode could start with Sprite doing a play of the mythology that's based on these creatures, and then it could lead into a movie. And that could have been the other issue I had, and it's another minor one, but I don't like CGI villains. So the
I
fact that
agree.
there's really not an actual villain to punch. Hey, it's great you can make this demon wolf, but let me see you punch someone.
Mhm.
But like minor things, I just think the time, because yeah, the acting was so great. I heard someone criticize the idea of throwing the Dane Whitman character in there because, like, oh, we just have to show Cersei loves humanity. I thought they showed Cersei loving humanity in all those like flashbacks as they're telling the story. You didn't
The whole
need,
movie was her loving humanity.
yeah, you didn't need her to date a human to show that. And so that was the criticism I heard. And like, oh, and if it's going to be a human, why can't it just be a regular human and not someone who has this lineage? And I'm like, but there's comic book backing
There's a
for
damn
Dane
reason for it.
Whitman and Cersei. Like, I mean, doesn't at some point the Black Knight go crazy and kill all the Cerseis in different timelines or something?
Yeah.
So like, there's a reason it was Dane Whitman and not just a generic human. Yes, it's kind of a backdoor. In one of in the end credit scene, he gets a call from Marshall Ali's blade. So
Hey, if there was ever a reason to not criticize them introducing characters, it's this movie where none of these characters fit yet. So they're throwing it all in there because I don't think we want a whole movie of their love life, right? So boom, it's there. We're good. We can move forward. That end credit scene was the best part of the movie for me. But I enjoyed that. I enjoyed both the end credits there. Um, you know, I think that the cast, like people aren't focusing enough on like Lauren Ridloff's performance, incredible. Don Lee, like we had these big names in there, and they stole the show. Kamal Nanjiani, who I've always enjoyed, but it wasn't about Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek. We had these other forces there, and to have this deaf character be like the heart of the movie, I mean, holy shit, how powerful was that? And those are the little things that I really appreciated about it, which is why I can't hate on it completely. It was a mess for me, but it was going to be a mess no matter who did it. So at least it was a beautiful mess in my book.
yeah, it's all. I think if they did two movies, like not just a series, but like two movies, I feel like two movies, you start to give away the ending in a series, but two movies you can do it because Richard Madden's really wooden in this,
Yeah.
and he's a better actor than is usually portrayed in this, but like he's also playing the bad guy from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you kind of figure, oh, he's just kind of a dick because he's jealous Cersei moved on. So it's not completely Richard Madden's fault. He gave a little bit of a wooden performance in this. And I mean, Kit Harington was FaceTiming for a lot of his scenes. So it's kind of unfortunate, like timing of filming and everything, and just how many characters there are, because I thought Kit Harington and Richard Madden could have given better performances. Angelina Jolie was great in every second she was on the screen. There just wasn't enough of her. I mean,
that scene in the kitchen, that I'm not a big Jolie fan, to be quite honest, but that scene in the kitchen just sold her whole career for me when she's with the toaster. It's nice to see such a serious person come out and just have fun.
Yeah, Brian Tyree Henry's, like his performance in any other movie that would have been the heart of the film, but like Camille Nanjiani, I thought kind of could have been the heart of this film. But you're completely right about Lauren Ridloff, like just amazing, like just everything she was doing, even when they just walk in the ship and she's just reading, and like the facial expressions from her.
That's the thing. Her mannerisms like stole every scene for me because she was so much more intense than every other character, but also so much more tender in the moment she needed it. Like I don't, like when you're sitting in a room and you know that everybody else in there is better than you, like everybody was sitting in that room and she was better than all of them. I feel like they knew it because she outacted the shit out of that cast. And that doesn't mean they didn't do their job. My takeaway was just how much I was blown away by her performance.
Yeah, I agree. Now, what do you think about the idea of the use of Hiroshima?
I don't know. There's a lot they can do to simplify things, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I know that the writers really wanted that in there, and so Chloe fought to keep it in there. And I understand why, because their idea was that they wanted the movie to be in the shades of gray,
Yeah.
which makes sense. And of course, it's got to be the tech Eternal that does it. But really weird move to have the gay black guy be the one who's responsible for Hiroshima. But like
Yeah.
the general reaction and the fact that he goes on and doesn't want to be part of this anymore and kind of really leads to the groups really breaking up at that point is great. But yeah, it's one of those things. If we were a post sexuality and race world, it wouldn't have been a problem. But I can see, I've heard a number of people of color like question that move, even if they did love the film. So
yeah, I just it's another one of those things that just didn't have to be in there, I guess, for me. Plus that's my guy Paperboy from Atlanta, so yeah, I can't do him like that. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of other choices I think I would have made, and to be honest, like the idea of Sprite or somebody like telling a story, you got my mind going. Even if it was like the first 20 minutes of the film, like to catch everybody up to speed.
Yeah,
20 minutes of that like storytelling, I think would have been so much better than what we got. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I was more excited about this movie than anybody else, simply because I wanted to be able to write a review where I said the critics are all wrong, and I was able to do that, but I still didn't like it. So I was like, damn it, Skeletor hands in the air.
well, the funny thing about the critics are all wrong is I feel like it was a small percentage of the critics that were complaining about it being woke, but it was also the most vocal part of the critics and the most vocal of the aggregators. So
yeah, it really was, and it's just annoying at this point, but yeah, that culture with everybody. So
yeah, the visuals were great in this film, but they felt superior Marvel great and not Jack Kirby great.
yeah, I could see that.
I heard someone suggest the idea of like, why wasn't there just a scene where you have a Celestial like in the background, like Kirby was drawing him in the background where no one can see him, but he's watching. And I was like, shit, no, you're right. That could have, hard to say, improved the visuals of this film, because I think truly the only thing that really improves the visuals of the film is less CGI monsters. But
this felt like more of your end of days 4th of July weekend blockbuster visually than it did a Marvel movie or comic book movie. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I liked what I was seeing on the screen, and I just wish that I would have seen more pertinent stuff on the screen.
I think one of the funniest things you said was it felt like a DC film at the end, because Chloe Zhao really loves Zack Snyder's choreography.
I saw that after the
so that is exactly what she was going for, and she achieved it. I think slightly better, but mostly because you have less dark tones. When you can actually see the characters, you can get a better fight scene, even when it's not what you're looking for in a fight scene.
So when I got home, Lauren's like, what'd you think of it? And I said, it felt like a Zack Snyder movie in the end. And she goes, oh, because she knows my feelings on him. And so then days later, I was reading her inspiration. I go, well, there it is.
Yeah. And I heard a couple other people say it felt like she was trying to make a DC film, not a Marvel film, because the DC films tend to be darker and deal with more gods. But this is the stage we're in Marvel where there's going to be gods. And
the Eternals aren't an easy film to shoot. It wasn't a widely loved comic, like at all, to be honest. The characters weren't shown much love. If you notice in comics of the last 30, 40 years, they've all but disappeared from the comics, so until this movie was announced, those comics meant nothing anyways. Like I could find the Eternals 1 for $10 in a bin,
Right.
And so now all of a sudden they're relevant and people are going back and they're like, oh, so there's not many issues. No, there's not, man. Like nobody cared about this crew. So to bring a movie so impactful in that respect, and to have, I'd say, so much representation on the screen, being true to the source is great. And it shows exactly what they were trying to do at Marvel back with comics, where they were trying to, now I'm not saying they did it the right way. If you read any Jungle Action, Black Panther, Shang-Chi, any of that stuff, they fucked up in so many ways with cultural stuff, but the attempt was there to put them on the paper, and that was made all the way back then. And so for the woke culture crowd or whatever, that's not at all what it's about. It's about the source material and what comic books have always been about. And there's a reason why many countries have banned many comic books over the years, and it's because they are actually asking people to love each other. So how about that? So
Yeah.
um, she just, I don't think anybody could have done a better job than she did. And it wasn't up for debate to have a series, given that this movie was announced years ago. And so she did what she could do to introduce us to these characters, some of which we'll see many times. Salma Hayek has a contract for 4 more movies somehow. Um, we'll see what we can get. I will say the Harry Styles casting, I'm very excited about that. I know people are like, oh, why is he in it? Why is he in it? The scene with him, I mean, he's going to be phenomenal in that role. I'm really looking forward to it. And he's young enough to stick around for a while if that's the case. And I'd love to see a scene with him and whoever plays Nova and stuff. So I'm excited where things are going. This movie didn't at all say to me, like, stop watching Marvel movies, like a couple reviewers I saw who were probably getting paid to say that by the OWN network or something. So I just, I'm excited for what's to come. I hope she is attached to more projects. I would love to see her take the reins on, like if they do an A4 show or something like that, where it's a very female heavy show.
Yeah.
I would love to see something like that, because I think that she would be able to really hammer home the narrative in a really nice, gritty way. So I don't know. I'm excited. No, I didn't love the movie. I didn't hate it. I just there's gonna be a day I watch it again at home with Zoe. There's no way I was taking almost 3-hour movie in the theater, but we're gonna sit on the couch. We're gonna watch it and see what she thinks about it. And as we always do, we'll watch it before the next Marvel film and we'll go from there.
I heard a couple of reviewers say it was much better on the second watch because they weren't trying to anticipate anything. They were just enjoying it. Which is hilarious because it's kind of the exact opposite of what we were talking about last week, how I think the Marvel movies lose a little bit on a rewatch just as a whole because you know what's going to happen. But with this film, with so much going on.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like with the Druid character, like from the beginning, I was trying to figure out what Druid's deal was. Mm-hmm. And really, his heart was in the right place. Just he kind of was twisted about how to do it. And so now I'm like, well, I want to rewatch it for Druid. Like, also, like I did notice the Kingo relationship with I'm forgetting Lauren's Rudolph's character, but I noticed like them a couple times in fight scenes, like talking, but I never noticed her and Druid. And so when that was there, but they did a quick shot of Kingo's like face being a little twisted, and I was like, oh, okay, so that was there. Something I've heard people like talk about how Kingo and Isaac's relationship, clearly there was something we didn't see. And then I heard there was a whole bunch of Kumail Nanjiani scenes that were filmed but not in the movie, which makes me think, was this originally going to be like a 6-hour film?
After I read that too, I was like, God, half the movie was him walking around with this guy there. And, at first I was really turned off by how they did the whole Bollywood thing with him and then continued the tropes throughout the movie. But then I read an interview with him where he said, that's part of my actual culture. And, that character identifying with that and taking that lifestyle. And, he says it was stereotypical for a reason, because a lot of those stereotypes are true. And he really wanted to put on the loving side of it, on a movie where we haven't seen it in a big scale movie. And so like, all right, that makes sense. Cause that really bugged me for a little bit, especially knowing him and following his career. I've been a big fan of his since Silicon Valley, like when I first started watching that. Not to get into some of the other stuff with that cast, but I've been a big fan of his, and I know how excited he was for this character and stuff. And so when that stuff first came on screen, I was like, he dove in for this. But then he said a lot of that was his influence on the film. And I said, okay, I can get behind that then.
Yeah, apparently the writers were always going to have that character do some Bollywood, but it wasn't going to be as prevalent. But they knew from the beginning that he was the only one that could do it. And so the fact that he influenced it further makes sense, because they were all in on him from the beginning. Like he was their only choice for that role, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he showed that he's a bona fide star in there. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing him again wherever we can. The interesting thing is a lot of these characters don't have long-term contracts in the MCU outside of Salma Hayek. So I'm curious to see what happens with that. And I'm wondering if a lot of that has to do with just non-guaranteed slates at this point. If you look, they're very non-committal to a lot of release dates for projects, and they have a lot of unnamed projects and things like that right now. So despite what folks are saying or pretending, we're a long way from being over to guaranteed theater views and this whole pandemic is just lingering. So I think it's smart on their end because they did see the downfall of all the Black Widow promos only to not release it and then have to go with streaming, and the same with the Eternals, coming out like a year and a half later. And I think that we're seeing that, and they were very non-committal about Spider-Man's release date until 2 weeks ago. So it's interesting to see. So I'm not surprised those contracts aren't locked in stone, especially with a lot of these young actors, who want to do other things too.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely were setting it up for future Eternals project, whether it's a sequel or a series, or if they're just going to be in the Guardians. But I feel like with Guardians ending, sending them to space isn't a bad idea. Shrinking the cast and sending them to space is probably a better idea.
Yeah,
I keep hearing the ideal number of 6, which is fine. Like, have Ajax, honestly, send the Ajax to the Avengers. Like, if you're bringing her back, send her to the Avengers. We obviously know Dane Whitman, who really wasn't a superhero in this film, but a character. He's going Avengers adjacent. Like, so he's going to be somewhere. Have a Kingo Thor buddy film, like, because I know like this might be the last Thor film, but I think Hemsworth's really loving playing Thor. So
he's got Thor and Guardians at least, and he said that he wants to play Thor until he dies.
Yeah,
which might be on the new Disney Plus show where he's scaling mountains and walking tightropes. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he's living his best life, and good for him. So yeah, I think there's a lot you could do. I know that before the movie came out, one of the characters everyone's worried about was Sprite. Since Sprite doesn't age, how do you handle that character? So turning her human was the way to handle that character.
Yep.
Also,
that was done very well.
Also, I don't think her fault at all, but I think that was probably the worst performance in the film, but she's young. So, and she's done a few things, but like, this is the first time she's like got to really, really carry something. So
she was also almost like a afterthought in many of the scenes, though. It's like, all right, how do we work Sprite into this scene kind of thing, as opposed to this matters. So when she was involved in such an integral scene, it's like we kind of were taught to not give a shit that she's on camera, through most of the movie. So
yeah, when she's telling the story of Gilgamesh, like, she's like animated and great.
Yeah,
like, I even thought like in Dane Whitman's birthday party scene, she was great in that too. Like, the emotion of her not being able to age and having wanted to get out of there, like, that was all there. So there's some really great scenes. I just think she was given the least to do. And so when like there was a twist, it came out of nowhere for her more than anyone.
Right. It didn't make a whole lot of sense at the moment, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I think even if we don't get a second Eternals film, we'll see most of these characters again. I know Icarus flew into the sun, but I hear the gaming run on Eternals referenced way more than the Jack Kirby. And I mean, did anyone else ever try the Eternals, or was it just the two of them?
The Eternals have come back a few times. I mean, the gaming run was extensive, but yeah, I don't know, to be honest. He'll be back. I mean, it's too big of a character to not be back, but
yeah, well, and the gaming run established that he's damn near impossible to kill. So
yeah, and I could see him in like a Surfer series, I think, because I was trying to figure out how he'll come back. Because I have a couple of friends who it's like they really wanted to see it for him, which is odd to me, but
they love their Game of Thrones. That's their King of the North.
Yeah, yeah. I could see him coming back when they do Surfer or something like that, like down the road and a bigger arc. I don't think that they brought him in to just be one and done like that. Especially, I mean, the acting is very good like that. It wasn't like when they brought Jude Law in to a movie, for some star power and stuff, and he could be one and done. He should just be written out of the film altogether and just have nothing.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie would have felt like a one and done, but I know she's like signed on for more, and she's excited to be part of this. So like, should ballet to enhance her fighting scenes. So
hearing her talk about this stuff, like, cause I've never really liked many of the things she's been in, like her early stuff, and then all of a sudden her acting style kind of changed a lot. So to see her have fun on screen, I just love that so much, because it reminded me of an earlier Angelina Jolie that was much more playful on the screen, as opposed to just this dead stare of killing souls. So I really enjoyed this character. I think that it was a match made made perfectly for that. So I look forward to seeing her and stuff too. And to be quite honest, we don't need all the Eternals together at all times. They can come together at an Avengers Assemble type moment, down the road. But for right now, I'm cool seeing them in other movies. And, we're going to get that they'll be intertwined with Warlock and, different things like that. So,
yeah.
Uh,
I like the idea of splitting like them into the Space Eternals and the Saiyan and Earth Eternals. Like, and obviously, like you have to get them back from this Judgment of Earth. But I heard the craziest theory. Mallory Rubin at the Ringer, she was kind of hoping they would destroy this Earth, and that we'd find out that this wasn't the Earth we'd been following. And I thought, wow, that never crossed my mind, but that would have been awesome had they failed.
That would be.
Had they failed and this Earth was destroyed. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Icarus off in space in a surfer type film makes sense a lot, or a surfer series. I think they sent the right three to space because Athena battling space folks as strong as she is, and then you get a lovey-dovey couple. And obviously Cersei's going to stay with Dane Whitman. Like that's where that story is. So
that creates a perfect opportunity to link up with the Asgardians of the galaxy. And I mean the fun that can be had with that, especially Thanos' brother is now in play. Imagine the scene between him and Thor upon meeting. That's, and I feel like that's where he's going to be. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. Like, and I have no idea how to predict where it goes. I think until we see Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, we've talked about it. There's no true way to predict anything that's happening right now. So
not at all. Especially now that we're seeing more of the Netflix series folks popping back into the equation too. That changes everything. And I mean, the Disney Plus Day show, they're going to rely a lot more on TV shows than movies at this point. So, I mean, anything's possible. So I'm done making predictions completely because every other day they're like, hey, here's this TV series that's coming out. Hey, here, we're going to put this one on Hulu because it's a little bit too graphic for Disney. And it's like, how do I keep all this shit together?
Speaking of predictions, I did not give my Mephisto Reed Richards lock for Hawkeye last week, as you know, because mine was so similar to yours. I do have mine, but before we move on, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with the Eternals?
I was hoping for a Howard the Duck cameo, to be quite honest, in the end credit scene, and I didn't get that. So it's not any fault of theirs. I just really want to see that character on screen, and I'm really hoping he gets a Hulu series. So that's completely unrelated, but I was hoping he'd be in a credit scene there, especially with like a Warlock or something.
The Hulu series for him keeps getting rumored and then not happening.
Oh, I haven't heard the rumors. I was just hoping that he would have been there with Eros, like it just was, as like accompanying him.
There was that one point, I believe it was going to be Kevin Smith was going to be involved, and it was at the same time they were going to do, well, basically everything that was canceled except for MODOK, which made it, and I think might now be canceled. But yeah, there was going to be a lot of Hulu animated things, and I think Kevin Smith was going to kind of be running it, but that was back when there was still a Marvel TV.
Oh yeah.
And then a lot of them fell to the wayside, but that was one of the ones that was talked about was a Howard the Duck. And I think Seth Green was going to reprise the voice in that one. So
would be awesome.
Yeah. I don't want to see a tease of Howard the Duck again until there's fucking plans to have Howard the Duck actually involved somewhere. I don't need him in the main storyline either. Like, let him go do some wacky madcap stuff. That's all I need.
Well, it's like Warlock's coming. We know that. I thought it'd be cool to have him just accidentally chilling with Eros, and then he can meet up with Rocket for the next Guardians. They're like, just bring him in, God damn it. But no, Eternals thoughts? No, I don't have it. See the movie, enjoy what you can with it. I'm going to give it a second watch and hopefully enjoy it more.
Awesome. So my Mephisto Reed Richards lock of the series for Hawkeye is that one of the episodes will be mostly, if not entirely, done through Pizza Dog's view. We might not get the womp 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 words of the Pizza Dog issue, but it'll be through Pizza Boys, and it will not only get nominated for an Emmy, but it will win the Emmy, whether it's for editing or cinematography or something. That episode will win an Emmy through the eyes of Pizza Dog.
Holy shit. Can I just say too, Zoe already loves pizza dogs so much, and she knows absolutely nothing about them other than the picture that was shared. So well done on the marketing, Disney Plus, because she now wants everything pizza dog.
I mean, that was just. I think Pizza Dog goes back to the brilliance of what the Hawkeye run of Fraction was. It was this is what happens when the human of the Avengers goes home to do his laundry, and he adopts a dog that likes pizza. Like,
yeah, I'm so excited for this, and I'm not a Hawkeye fan by any means.
right.
I do love that run. It's just I also haven't liked the portrayal of him in the movies by no fault of the acting, but more of the writing for that character. So I am really looking forward to what seems like the sarcasm and wit are going to be used a lot more in this, and that's what I've been looking for throughout all the appearances. So, man, I'm excited for the series. I have it on my calendar. I have the countdown on my phone. I'm genuinely excited.
All right, now like a slight pivot, a full pivot from Hawkeye, but a slight pivot from Eternals. Was DC correct in not going forward with the New Gods film after seeing Eternals?
Yeah.
Yeah, as we were just talking, I'm thinking, yeah, plenty of things Jack Kirby's credited with helping to create because he was the artist on it have made for good properties. But if Marvel, who's had a better handle on making movies than Warner Brothers, can't do Jack Kirby and his space god allegories, how the hell would DC handle it?
So the thing is, they don't have the means of the TV show stuff. And when I say that, it's not that they don't have the stuff on HBO Max, but it's not like their Disney Plus series are all tied in. They haven't gotten there yet. They're going to get that with the John Cena Peacemaker series.
Yeah,
it's going to start to build that, but they don't have that yet. And I think that's where they need to go for a movie like that, because I mean, as we've seen with their 3-4 hour movies, they don't work, and that's what would be needed for those. These are great in comic book form, but there is a lot that you can't do. So, and to be quite honest, that series is a really good read. I know I'm not normally high in DC stuff, but it is a really fun read. But it's one that you have to take your time with. So if you were to do 2 seasons then a movie, makes perfect sense. I really can't see that series being done in one season. So, or start to sprinkle characters in too, but. Yeah, I think that Marvel swung for the fences with this, did the best they could. And if you notice, the TV show announcements came right when this movie was way too long chatter started for a lot of stuff coming up. So I have a feeling that some things that were going to be a movie will now be, a 6 to 8 hour TV series.
Yeah, I think the one thing DC has an advantage of in adapting the idea of adapting New Gods over Eternals is just how much more prevalent so many of the New God characters are, not only in the DC comic books than the Eternals, but also in other media, like the Superman animated series and the Justice League animated series. They used Darkseid, they used Great and Good, so they used a lot of the characters that are essential in the New Gods. So at least even slightly more than casual fans, you don't have to be a full blown fan, but if you watch Justice League on Cartoon Network as a kid, you've seen Darkseid, so you've seen some of these characters.
Oh yeah,
Darkseid I think is way overdone, but you've seen these characters, and also like I had asked you, are Jack Kirby and Gaiman the only ones who have done the Eternals? Because these are the ones I'm familiar with that have done the Eternals, and the Gaiman run is
the Gaiman run is Gaiman.
Yeah, it's very Gaiman. It's a very Gaiman title to pick. But at the same time, when you think of Gaiman comic book runs, I don't think you think the Eternals is one of his tops. I mean, obviously first is going to be Sandman.
Sandman, yeah. And I personally didn't enjoy his Eternals run, to be quite honest. I don't know. They're interesting characters on their own. I kind of wish that they all had their own series and could have been dealt with in such a manner. But the new run, from what I hear, is okay. I hate the art in it, so I can't read it, but maybe I'll find a book on tape.
That would be fair. And speaking of overdone characters, I'm trying to work in lead-ins. That's our next step is lead-ins.
God.
But the rumor, of course, is that Joker is returning in the Batman, or Batman, or whatever this new one's going to be called. And Barry Cohen, aka Druig, will be playing the Joker.
Hmm.
I don't think you've heard this rumor yet, since you're given the thinking look that people listening to us can't see, but
I can't see it, but I'm not going to discount it either. I think he's a solid actor. Um, I'm so over the Joker, man. I just really, really am. And I think Robert Pattinson's going to nail this film. I think it's going to be a great film, but I think Batman fans are going to hate it, to be quite honest. And I think as somebody who's not a DC guy, but loves acting in movies, I'm going to love it. Which my friend Eric and I, he's a huge Batman guy, and I make fun of Batman all the time. You see it. We go back and forth about Batman tonight and stuff. I think he's going to hate this movie, and I think I'm going to love the shit out of it. I'm just so done with Joker, man. Like, yeah, Heath Ledger's portrayal was amazing. The movies were crap, in my opinion, but how many Jokers are we going to have in a universe at this point, or an extended universe or whatever? You know, I'm just over. DC needs to introduce some new villains and just leave some on the back burner for a while and just really reinvent themselves as one universe, not
the DC movies need to introduce some new villains and leave them on the back burner. The DC comic books are doing half of that. They're introducing new villains. They're just not leaving the other ones on the back burner, unfortunately.
Oh god, there's 8 Batman titles. I counted at the comic shop today. There are 8 Batman titles that are current right now. So yeah, there's new villains, old villains, but the movies really just need to move on from what they think fans want and give them something a little different. I mean, really pick up on the Batman animated series vibes even, and just start to bring in some of that, like, and give true characters to that, because there are so many Batman fans that exist right now because of the Batman the animated series, not because of the comic books. Throw that stuff in the faces of the people, and you might actually make a decent movie. But enough with the Joker stuff. Yeah, he'll knock it out of the park. I don't doubt that, but it's like they're pigeonholed as to what they can do with the Joker at this point, when they haven't really explored the Joker in very many films at all yet, to who he actually is. And it's always this over-the-top nonsense crap for no reason. You know, I mean, there's a lot of humanity that hasn't been explored yet there. And I know people say the Joker did it. That movie was complete trash and a mock of mental health. So that movie sucks in my book. I don't know. I hear there's a new Joker and I just don't care.
Yeah, I initially was like, I don't want to see another Joker, but then I thought just the facial of Cohen in this movie as Druig, I was like, this wouldn't be Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, definitely wouldn't be a Jared Leto. I think this would be like a subtle, just straight Dexter serial killer style Joker. And I would like to see that take, but I think I would like to see that take in 15, 20 years from now. I don't need that take now.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, the person I could best see as Joker at this point is Cameron Monaghan, who played him in Gotham. I would like to see him tackle that character on the big screen, to be quite honest, because I think he nailed it in a lot of ways. And they've already explored the humanity of that character in a lot of ways. So I would go that route, but I find it so hard to get excited with stuff coming out of that studio, unless now James Gunn is attached, at which point I get excited.
Well, I'll be curious, obviously, for Black Adam and the second Shazam.
I think Black Adam is going to be a different element all on its own. The Rock not only willed this film to happen, much like Ryan Reynolds did with Deadpool, he promoted it before it was ever greenlit. He basically started billboards before they were like, yeah, this is a thing. The condition he's gotten into for it, the trash talk he's had on social media. I mean, he brought the idea, brought in the team, started a fun rivalry with other DC characters, does free marketing. Like, this movie is going to be amazing.
Well, I'm excited for it to be a success and for Shazam 2 to be a success, so we can get a movie with the two of them, because I want Dwayne Johnson and Zach Levy to do press tours together.
That'd be hilarious.
I don't want them to be talking about each other on social media or in their press interviews when they're on the late night shows like Reynolds and Rock did for Red Notice. I want them to be on couches together, and I want Conan to resurrect his late night show so we can have them on the couch together.
I can get behind that.
I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, they could be on any couch together. It's going to be great. I just think the two of them are fantastic. I know Conan and Zach Levy have a relationship though, because since they both worked on the Warner Brothers lot for years, and Zach Levy would just do pop-in appearances
Oh yeah.
on Conan. So I think that will be great. All right, before we wrap up, do you have some? I know I threw this at you not too long ago, but let's if you're listening to this and you have a nerdy person in your life you're looking to get a gift for, let's throw out some ideas for them.
I would say a gift card to a local comic shop. Support a local business. Comic shops don't just have comic books; they also have many other collectibles, things like that will always catch a nerd's eye. Any of the Hawkeye trades, they just all got marked down recently, coincidentally. Get them for the nerd in your life, because even as I've said on the past couple episodes, I'm not a Hawkeye fan, but they're great reads. Definitely pick those up. And to give a little bit of a plug, that's a business based out of Rochester here, but toysnip.com, who I blog for every Monday, just donated 1,000 pops to Pops for Patients, which I picked up part of the haul, and it's going to be a process because that's a lot of boxes. But they have a lot of collectibles, toys, all the stuff nerddom. They just did a sweet unboxing for the Ghostbusters merch. Free shipping over $100, and just a really cool local company. And to be quite honest, they have everything you could want, collectible wise, at low pricing, and it's out of a local warehouse here in Rochester, New York. And I highly recommend checking them out. They have blogs, they do a bunch of other stuff, movie trailers, everything else, but it's a company full of heart, and you are helping a local business when you order from them. And they've started taking off quite a bit lately, but they support a cause near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you saw the pictures today, but
I did, and I looked and I said, well, that's way too many Baby Yodas.
Yeah, but
the kids will love it. So
yes. And so any business that's all about making kids in the hospital happy, I'll support until the end of the day. P4P New York right there. Toysnip.com. I've known one of the guys who works for them for many years. He actually got us on the news for Pops for Patients a while back, and we stayed in contact. Great company. So that's where you find all your needs, but always support local when you can. I know Amazon's cheap, convenient. I know Walmart's the same, but these local businesses, man, once you set up a connection, I walk into my local comic shop, Rhino's Comics, and he's always automatically greeted by Uncle Chet, the owner, with a book, with a lollipop, and just we talk. Our families know each other's stuff. That's just what happens at a local shop. So always support local.
I will second that. Always support local. I can attest. There's a not local for me anymore, but there's a store in Pittsburgh I would go into all the time. He was always super friendly, happy to see me, and now even when I interact with his things on social media, he's always still like appreciative of the fact that I'm long distance interacting with him. But I will also say, know your nerd. Like, don't just go and pick something out because, oh, that Dan guy I like, he liked this. I'm going to suggest specifically any of the NECA figures, but the Goliath and Thylaug Gargoyle NECA figures are some of the most beautiful figures I've seen. I know the Goliath pre-sale sold out almost instantly, so probably not going to be the easiest things to find, but if you see those in your local store and you have someone in your life who loves gargoyles, that person's right. Gargoyles was amazing.
It was. And you're right, Greg. I meant to say this, actually. I don't mean to cut you off. If you have that collector in your life, do not buy them the comics, do not buy them stuff, because chances are they probably still have it or they don't have it for a reason. I can't count how many times somebody has bought me a trade or even gone out of the way to buy me an omnibus, and I have to look at it and be like, thanks, knowing that I have one, if not two at home.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to show that you know somebody, but just draw a little face on your card or something showing the character they like, because a lot of times they'll either have something that they already wanted, so yes, know your nerd. You're right, Greg.
Yeah, and also me as an avid book reader, I don't like hardcover books, and people want to give hardcover books as gifts. So I will always appreciate them and love them, and I will hold on to them, even though I will then go buy the trade of that book. So I appreciate it, but as much as people complain about gift cards being impersonal, write a nice note with your gift card and give the gift card, because the person can get something they know. And honestly, if you know what they like and you know they don't have something, know their collection and take a chance. I love when someone suggests me something that I don't know, I'm not aware of, but then I end up loving. So that's a good gift, but know the person you're buying for.
Yeah, gift cards are great, especially for your older collectors. Um, Man, I had one time somebody bought me an entire run of Black Panther books, which if you know me, you know I love Black Panther. But if you know me, you should know that I own almost every Black Panther comic ever. And so it was
In
a hard
triplicates for the most part.
Yes. I have a box of my triplicates. And they told me how they spent a year putting together this run and all this stuff and the homework they had to do because they knew nothing about comics. And that experience, that journey is why they'll always forever stay in my collection, despite the fact that I had them. And I was excited with them as they were telling the story. But it was also one of those things of now I have to store these. And I already had them all. So, and it's not to sound ungrateful by any means. I love the fact that they went out of their way to do all of this. It's just a means of, if you got a nerd, you got a collector in your life, we probably already have the stuff.
Which also the flip side, if you are that nerd and someone gets you something, if you have, appreciate it and love them for it, because life is expensive. So to go out and buy a gift for anyone is just this wonderful, nice gesture.
Yeah.
I'm very much of the mold that I don't think you should be obligated by gifts at all. So if I'm going to get you a gift, even if it's something I miss on, if I get you a book that I think you might like and I miss, I'm sorry. Please appreciate that I thought of you and was trying to get it wrong. Tell me you don't appreciate it so I don't make the mistake and give you a similar author. But like, do appreciate, even if it's not something that warms your heart, because I mean, someone gave you a gift. Like, love that.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I will never knock a gift. And to be quite honest, I have so many friends in the collector community that, I run a lot of claim sales, but I don't think people realize like how many free books I throw in on my claim sales when I mail them out, knowing that person, like that nerd.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times the gifts that have been given to me that I already had end up in somebody else's collection, and they get to look at it and say, oh my God, they thought of me and gave me this free book. So there's that element too. So the joy and the love does continue to spread as well.
I was about to throw you under the bus jokingly about only getting one free book in my last claim sale, but you also said a cookbook on top of the free comic book.
Yeah.
So no, that's just the person you are, which is kind of hilarious because when I saw the package it came in, I was like, I definitely didn't order this much. Like, what the hell is he throwing in here? And then when it was like a separate cookbook, and I'm like, that makes sense.
I know you guys get down in the kitchen, and so I wanted to kind of spread some love that way too.
We pretend to get down in the kitchen. Now the nieces are helping me make every dinner, so my already simple cookings are a little more simple.
Oh, beautiful. I have an awesome Disney princess cookbook that we live by.
Yeah, the girls are too young to touch a lot of things, so mostly they're putting things on pans for me, or before I warm up the pans, folks, don't get anxious, or throwing the spices on, but they don't quite know how to do the spices. So
I love it.
One piece of chicken might be wildly over seasoned, while the one right next to it's wildly under seasoned. But the girls are loving helping make dinner. So
I love it.
Because I'm the greatest uncle in the world, folks.
My man.
All right, Dan, do you want to get your plugs on our way out here?
I think I did. Toyship.com, P4P New York. Check P4P out on Facebook. We made over 1,000 pops this year that are donated, along with everything else. And just check out Greg's Cool Points every week. It's a lot of good stuff in there. Whatever the algorithm is, I miss it half the time. So I don't catch it until like a week or two later where I have 3 of them showing up. So I don't know what the deal is with it, but make sure to check it out. And Battle of the Ballads I think we have 10 episodes left.
Before we do the same show under a different name. It is kind of fun because it's going to be the end of the run here for Battle of the Ballads as we know it, but birthing of a music show that probably should have been the name of Battle of the Ballads to begin with, but
I love it. It's one of the last.
I did get some notice from someone that they were originally just picking ballads before I mentioned a song that was definitely going to be in my short list, and then they completely changed and told me their favorite song of the year was definitely not what people think of as a ballad. But ballad just means song, folks. We're not wrong. I mean, we were wrong for going with that because things were implying like some 80s soft rock, but
nah, we were right.
Yeah, as Dan said, Battle of the Ballads. Check out all his stuff. Also, please feel free to ask us questions, especially like as you're going through these journeys, as we're going to start watching Hawkeye. Like, watch the
yeah.
episode if you guys have questions for us. I know, Ellen, you're listening right now. No matter what time it is, you're listening right now. I know you talk to Dan regularly about the show. Like, yeah, ask us questions.
Yeah.
We'll either know the answer or we'll make something up. So,
Without a doubt.
all right, Dan, thank you so much. I'll never see you again.
I'll see you tomorrow.